Watch coming up in the next hour. Protests rock major Israeli cities, including outside Netanyahu's residence. Call on government to secure Gaza hostages' release. Protests also marked major cities across the world. US reaffirms support for humanitarian pauses in Gaza. Warns ceasefire would help Hamas to regroup. Pakistan stays alive.
Regroup and repeat what it did on October 7th.
Pakistan stays alive in the race for the semi-final while England crashes out. Today, India takes on South Africa in a top-of-the-table clash in Kolkata's Eden Gardens. It's day 30 of the Israel-Hamas conflict, and the action from both sides seems relentless, with protests gaining strength across Israeli major cities in support of the families of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. Israelis, including families of October 7 victims, rallied in Tel Aviv on Saturday. Toys were displayed in the protest to symbolize the children who were being taken as hostages by Hamas militants, while hundreds waved Israeli flags and pictures of the missing. Israel says Hamas has taken over 240 hostages so far. And protests also took place outside the residence of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, waving blue and with Israeli flags. A crowd in hundreds pushed through police barriers around Netanyahu's residence in Jerusalem. The protest, which coincided with a poll showing more than three-quarters of Israelis believe Netanyahu should resign, underlined the growing public fury at the political and security leaders. And protests were also held in major cities across the world to demand the Gaza ceasefire and release of hostages. In central London, thousands of protesters were gathered to call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza amid ongoing conflict. It was the fourth consecutive week that the British capital was the venue for a large rally in support of Gazans since October 7. In Paris, thousands demonstrated to show solidarity for Gazans and to demand a ceasefire. Demonstrators held flags bearing slogans "Stop the Massacres" and "Ceasefire now." Around 19,000 people took part in the protest. The demonstration was one of the first big gatherings to be legally allowed in Paris since Hamas attacked Israel. French authorities had banned previous gatherings in Paris due to concerns of public disorder, but there has been increasing public anger around the world over civilian deaths. Major cities around the United States also saw large protests calling for an immediate ceasefire. Thousands of demonstrators gathered in Washington, D.C. amid the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. Crowds of protesters marched the streets, holding signs and waving flags demanding ceasefire in Gaza. Protesters voicing support for residents of the Gaza Strip gathered at rallies in more than 24 cities across Canada. Thousands of protesters filed the streets of Toronto and Ottawa, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Protesters also demanded Canada end its support for Israel's military action against Hamas. Canada's foreign minister reiterated a call for a humanitarian pause in the conflict in Gaza and said there's a little time left to get Canadians and hostages out while delivering badly needed aid. Well, let's listen in to some of the reactions from the protesters.
I'm here to demand a ceasefire as a bare minimum to end the violent attacks by the State of Israel against innocent children and civilians in Gaza. a ceasefire is just a starting point. I think as artists, we have the unique capacity to touch people in their spirit, and I think that's what we need right now.
We're asking to call for a ceasefire. We need to stop the suffering that's happening in Gaza and all the children that have been, they're dying and being massacred and butchered and stuff like that. We just want to call them just have a ceasefire. Let's stop this madness. That's what we're saying.
Because this whole government is not legitimate. They are having decisions that have to do with the life of my children, our daughters, while their daughters have accepted, their daughters are exempted from the army, who has to do with fighting, and they're fighting like lionesses, like heroine, young women that gave their lives to the country. They are the ones who decide to send them into battle while their daughters are safe and sound.
I'm here for my brother and his family, his wife Shiri and 2 little boys. Ariel is 4 years old. Kfir is now 10 months old. We don't know where they are. We don't know what conditions they are kept in. I don't know if Kfir is getting food. I don't know if Ariel is getting enough food. He's a very small baby, 4 years old. And it should be stopped. It's a humanitarian situation, a war crime, and it should be stopped immediately. And we want the Red Cross to go inside, to check on them, to give us a list of the people there, to know if they're alive or dead, to know if they're okay.
The U.S. remains deeply committed to humanitarian efforts in the region, stepping up its frantic diplomacy. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met leaders from Lebanon, Qatar, Jordan, Egypt and Saudi in Amman as he pushed for humanitarian pauses in the fighting. The last meeting of the day was with Jordan King Abdullah II and Crown Prince Al Hussein, during which they discussed working towards facilitating the delivery of humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza. Earlier, Blinken attended an Arab foreign ministers roundtable meeting where he expressed deep commitment to working with partners in the region to help set the conditions necessary for a durable and sustainable peace in the Middle East. This was Blinken's second trip to the region since Israel-Hamas conflict began.
Israel has a right and indeed an obligation to defend itself and to try to take the steps necessary to ensure that what happened on October 7th never happens again. But equally, it is very important how Israel does this. And in particular, it's important to take every possible measure to protect civilians and to prevent harm to them, as well as to ensure that those who need assistance get it. And in our conversations with the Israeli government, including just yesterday, we have pointed to steps that they could and should take to minimize harm to civilians, to prevent civilian casualties. It's our view that a ceasefire now would simply leave Hamas in place, able to regroup and repeat what it did on October 7th.
Meanwhile, Antony Blinken will visit Turkey on Sunday, where he will remain until Monday afternoon. It is not yet clear who the U.S. Secretary of State will be meeting. Turkey on Saturday recalled its ambassador to Israel for consultations due to the humanitarian crisis and ongoing Israeli attacks in Gaza. Israel's envoys to Turkey left the country last month due to security reasons. Israel later said it had recalled its envoys to assess bilateral ties. Israeli Foreign Ministry called the decision to call ambassador back for consultations another step to side with terrorist organization Hamas. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has listed the top Hamas targets of the Israeli Defense Forces and vowed to find and eliminate them. Speaking at a news conference in Tel Aviv, Gallant said that Israel had delivered a hard blow to Hamas brigades and destroyed critical military infrastructure.
Hamas brigades are getting hard blows and we dismantle infrastructure after infrastructure.
We can see here the areas in Gaza. In each square there are infrastructure. These are falling apart as a result of the determined action of the fighters of the army. I can tell you that 12 Hamas commanders were killed. We will get to everyone from the chain of command to the terrorist in the field. We will get to Yahya Sinwar and we will assassinate him. I say here to the people of Gaza, if you get there first, it will shorten the war.
Israel's chief of the general staff, Herzi Halevi, held an assessment with his forces inside Gaza Strip. A video released by the Israeli Defense Force shows how Halevi meeting with the commander and other officers. Halevi visited the troops after they completed an encirclement of Gaza City. Israel's ground forces encircled Gaza City after stepping up a bombing campaign aimed at wiping out Hamas.
Keep everyone strong, strengthen the spirit. I know personally that it's very strong. I am really proud of people and I am really proud of you. Pass this to others, we will take and get updates. Well done.
Israeli warplanes pounded Hezbollah positions in Lebanon on Saturday, and in the worst border clashes for 17 years after the terrorist group unleashed a series of rockets into northern Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces said its planes had struck Hezbollah targets in retaliation for the attack and combined the air strikes with artillery and tank shelling. While diplomatic efforts intensify, DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh was at the Golan Heights on the Israel-Syria border. He gives us a ground report on the threat of a regional escalation of the Israel-Hamas conflict.
I'm right now standing at the Golan Heights. This is the border that you see behind me, is the border of Israel with Syria. So right now, the threat of a regional escalation looms large, though Syria has been, quite its military capabilities have been depleted by the constant conflict that is going on in Syria, or the civil war, which has been going on for more than 2 years. But Iran's proxies are still active, and that is what the international community is concerned about, that if Iran starts acting through its proxies out of Syria, the Hezbollah anyway is backed by Iran and also the Hamas, so it could spill over. There could be a regional escalation, and the world cannot afford a second war. Right now, the first war, Ukraine-Russia crisis anyway, has affected global supply chains, and another war would mean disaster for the world. And that is why you see hectic diplomacy. Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, was in Tel Aviv. He held long meetings with Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet, and later traveled to Jordan to see with two objectives. One, to see that it does not escalate beyond Hamas and Israel, and the second, to see how humanitarian aid can be increased into the Gaza Strip, because there's a humanitarian catastrophe unfolding there. Amritpal Singh for DD India at the Golan Heights.
Well, Ukraine's armed forces said they hit marine and port infrastructure at a factory in the port city of Kerch in Russian-occupied Crimea on Saturday. Ukraine fired 15 cruise missiles on Russia's shipyard in the Crimean port, damaging a ship. 13 of the missiles were destroyed in the air, while one hit a ship, the Russian Defense Ministry said in a statement while reporting on Ukraine's strikes on Russian territory or infrastructure. Ukraine's top Air Force commander said the Russian Navy stationed there one of its most modern ships, a carrier of the caliber cruise missile. Moscow has often attacked Ukraine in the course of the 20-month-long war with caliber missiles. And the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said on Saturday that Ukraine has made excellent progress towards EU accession, days ahead of a key report on Kyiv's membership bid. Standing next to the Ukrainian president, she said Ukraine had reached many milestones despite the war with Russia, highlighting Kyiv's judicial reforms. The EU assessment due on Wednesday is expected to say how far Ukraine has advanced in fulfilling various economic, legal and other criteria to clear the way for accession talks in December. The EU's 27 members are due at a summit in December to decide whether to allow Kyiv to begin accession negotiations, which would require unanimous backing.
I want to tell you how impressed we are by the reforms you've made in the midst of a war. You should never forget you are fighting an existential war, and at the same time you're deeply reforming your country. You have reached many milestones, reforming your justice system, curbing the oligarchs' grip, tackling money laundering, and much more. I know that you are in the process of completing outstanding reforms. If this happens, and I'm confident, Ukraine can reach its ambitious goal of moving to the next stage in the accession process.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky denied on Saturday that the war with Russia has reached a stalemate and said more work with allies was needed to strengthen air defenses. His comments come days after Ukraine's Commander-in-Chief General says the conflict is moving towards a new stage of static and attritional fighting, a phase that could allow Moscow to rebuild its military power. Zelensky acknowledged there had been difficulties in the war now in its 21st month and that Kyiv had yet to achieve any major successes in its counteroffensive, adding that the Israel-Gaza war is taking away the focus from the conflict in Ukraine, accusing Russia of going forward with invasion with the aim. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Survivors race against time in wake of the devastating earthquake in Nepal. Countries move a step closer to getting a fund off the ground to help poor states damaged by climate disasters. And Mexicans participated in parade celebrating the Day of the Dead. How? We'll tell you. Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Well, the victims of the disastrous earthquake that shook Nepal in the middle of the night were being treated in a hospital in Kalanga, which is close to the epicenter of the quake in the country's western region, while other survivors slept outside amid damaged buildings. Military helicopters have also been deployed to the quake-stricken areas to save the seriously injured. The helicopters have been flying between the disaster area and the airport, transporting the injured for further treatment. The death toll has reached 257, and officials fear the death tolls could rise. At first, responders had reached a hilly area near the epicenter and began searching for survivors now. Also, Nepal Deputy Prime Minister Bahadur Khadka said the country has deployed its military forces to race against time to rescue all the injured.
First, we have to rescue all those injured people who are treated at local hospitals and clinics. Seriously injured people will be sent to other hospitals by 2 military helicopters, and 3 other small military helicopters will also participate in the rescue. In the initial stage, we will treat the injured in different hospitals in the region.
Well, DD India's special correspondent Shweta Singh joins us from Nepal. Shweta, how are rescue operations going on there as the devastating earthquake jolted Nepal?
Yes, Siddharth. You see the magnitude was 6.4, like 100 of houses were flattened to the ground. Mostly the houses were made of stone and mud that were destroyed. The concrete buildings sustained the earthquake. And because of this, you see like 157 deaths and 200 injured. Relief operations, actually just 10 minutes back, I had an update from Karnali that rescue operations are about to end. because like all the dead bodies have been brought out and injured are being treated, and the severely injured are being airlifted to neighboring hospitals in Surkhet, Nepalganj, and army is doing what max they all can do. Prime Minister has also separately announced for 100 million rupees of fund through disaster fund to be helping people there in Jajarkot and Rukum West. So if you notice, the relief operation, rescue operation have been till now it is approximately complete. But yes, for rehabilitating people and giving them proper house now is more important, because temporarily they are staying in tent house, and you see winter is very cold here. So it is not easy to, though if one survives earthquake and if we are not taking care now with in this cold, I think another tolls may rise. But and India, as you see, we are there for help. Definitely, as a neighbor, good neighbor, we stand in solidarity with Nepal. So Nepal have to allow us to help them. So we are there. But till now, Nepal has its army and police and all the rescue workers working in Jajarkot and West Rukum.
Okay, Shweta, that was about the rescue operations. Now, Shweta, could you just update us a little more about how the government is giving its assistance to the survivors of the quake and for those who became homeless over the night?
Yeah, actually, you see, from yesterday morning, Prime Minister, along with the health workers, visited the epicenter site in Karnali, and there they were provided immediately with all the relief material, tents. But you see, as I emphasize, it's cold here. Tent is not able to help them in this winter. Though at the first primary level, definitely it is, because living under open sky is more torturous than at least having a tent. Because you see, the houses were made of stone and mud. And when they have crashed down, and there are more hundreds of houses that are at risk of falling down. So government have definitely provided tarpaulin, tent houses, but I think more of strong, some temporary accommodation have to be arranged by them now. And today, cabinet meeting, they have decided for rescue relief operations. Actually, now we are waiting for more updates. Exactly how government is going to provide relief, because they have demarcated that 100 million rupees separately for Jajarkot, 50 million each for Jajarkot and your Rukum West. But we, as a international media, we are really seeing how Nepal is going to help its people, and as a friend and a good neighbor, India is standing by their side.
Okay, Shweta, you've just said that there are chances that some houses may fall because of the way they have been built. So, is there any precautionary measure the government is taking, like the evacuation, for the safety of the citizens there? Yeah,
the houses which are at high risk and are at a risk of falling down quickly, because the houses mostly are made of stone and mud. The houses which are concrete in the market area, they have sustained the earthquake. But the residential blocks that were made of stones, that typical mountain houses, I would say, that have sustained a lot of damage. And they may fall. So for those people, they have managed to get a tent now. Till today, till morning, I would say there were tents. Tarpaulin was distributed. But now onwards, we are waiting and watching for the temporary accommodation. Where will they be airlifted? Where will they be shifted? We are waiting for that. So what arrangement Nepal government is going to do for its local people? Temporary tents are there, but now
All right, Shweta.
Stronger arrangement. Yes.
All right, thank you for joining in, Shweta. Well, former U.S. President Donald Trump targeted his Republican rivals at a campaign event in Florida. Trump has called the indictments part of a politically motivated witch hunt to thwart his political pursuit. Facing a series of criminal charges, Trump has embraced his indictments in 4 separate state criminal cases. This has boosted his popularity among Republicans and made him the front-runner in his party's race for the presidential nomination. Trump has vowed to enact tougher immigration restrictions and harsher curbs in trade with China, and to carry out political reprisals against those he perceives to have wronged him. While Kenyan President William Ruto said Kenya is determined to push forward its contributions to environmental protection and global sustainable development. He added Kenya and China share a complementary relationship and cooperation around green development. Ruto added, "We made a deliberate, intentional decision as a country to chart the way towards a much more sustainable future, both for ourselves and globally."
We have a complementary relationship. China spearheads technology around renewable energy. Kenya is a frontline state on advocating for climate action that enables us to unlock the huge potential that we have, especially in the African continent, on renewable energy. Whether you talk about solar, geothermal, wind, hydro, that is the space where Kenya is pushing.
More than 500 migrants were rescued in the Atlantic Ocean off Spain's Canary Islands as the number of people arriving so far this year neared an all-time record posted in 2006. 2 dead bodies were also found among those rescued from 4 boats in the waters off El. The number of arrivals has recently jumped as milder weather and calmer seas have made it more feasible to attempt the crossing from Africa. The Spanish government said it would create additional emergency accommodation for some 3,000 migrants in military barracks, hotels and hostels. A Mexican sailor, Jose Ramiro Castro Garcia, who died guarding a ship during Hurricane Otis, was laid to rest on Friday. The relatives and friends of Jose attended his funeral on Friday. The sailor remained on the ship on the owner's instructions. Meanwhile, the relatives denounced that the owner of the ship had not responded to the request for help after Jose's death. They also denounced the slow response of the Mexican authorities to return to the body of their loved one. In Acapulco, many residents have been left without work and are struggling to meet their basic needs. Some 100 people were killed and went missing in Otis aftermath. Three people from a flight charter company have been reported dead in a plane crash while assisting firefighters battling bushfires in Queensland. The incident was reported on Saturday noon in McKinley, about 104 kilometers southeast of Cloncurry. The 3-person crew aboard the plane were assisting the Queensland Fire and Emergency Services in a fire mapping surveillance operation during the crash. Officials said the families of the victims have been notified while formal identification is still pending. Investigation is underway to ascertain the cause of the crash. Countries moved a step closer on Saturday to getting a fund off the ground to help poor states damaged by climate disasters. A special UN committee tasked with implementing the fund met for a 5th time in Abu Dhabi this week. Deadlock was witnessed in Egypt last month over finalizing recommendations that will be put to government when they meet for the annual climate summit, COP28 in Dubai, in less than 4 weeks' time. The goal is to get the fund up and running by 2024. To get all countries on board, it was agreed the World Bank would serve as interim trustee and host of the fund for a 4-year period. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Gearing up for important local elections in March 2024, Turkey's main opposition Republican People's Party elected Özgür Özel as its new leader. His candidacy will end the 13-year term for incumbent Kemal, who had come under fire since election defeat for refusing to step down as the leader of the CHP. Amid threats of deportation, Venezuelan migrants who trekked through the dangerous Darien Gap to reach the U.S. are getting some respite with the help of Catholic charities of the Archdiocese. A church is helping the migrants with their applications for work authorization and temporary protected status. India's most awaited festival, Diwali, also known as the Festival of Lights, was celebrated with joy and fervor by the Indian Embassy in Pakistan. The festival saw enthusiastic participation from diplomatic corps and other friends. Disguising themselves as iconic Mexican skeleton figure La Catrina, or Elegant Skeleton. Mexicans participated in the parade celebrating the Day of the Dead. The idea for the parade originated from the opening scene of the movie Spectre, where Agent 007 chases the villain through the crowded Mexico City, hosting a similar event. Well, still to come on DD India News Hour. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida kicks off a tour of Southeast Asia. Air quality continues to deteriorate in Delhi. Air quality in several areas remains in severe category. India and Malaysia enhances operational capabilities in sub-conventional warfare environments.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and let's take a look at the headlines once again. Protests rock major Israeli cities, including outside Netanyahu's residence. Call on government to secure Gaza hostages release. Protests also marked major cities across the world. US reaffirms support for humanitarian pauses in Gaza. Warns ceasefire would help Hamas to regroup. Pakistan stays alive in the race for the semi-final while England crashes out. Today, India takes on South Africa in a top-of-the-table clash in Kolkata's Eden Gardens. We bring back to you this top story we are taking this news hour. The United Nations has said that there are nearly 1.5 million displaced from Gaza, with over 700,000 sheltering in its facilities. It warns that the shelters are becoming overcrowded, adding to health risks for the population, and its sites in the south of territory are now over capacity. The Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, on Saturday voiced his anguish over the suspected airstrike of a convoy of ambulances outside Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza. While condoling the loss of lives in the attack outside the Gaza hospital, the UN chief also called for the immediate release of the hostages by terror group Hamas. He added all those with influence must exert it to ensure respect for the rules of war and the suffering and avoid a spillover of the conflict. Well, DD India correspondent Amrit Pal Singh joins us from West Bank. Amrit, what is the latest situation in terms of the military campaign? The civilian casualties seem to be going up now, despite the hectic diplomacy, despite calls from the US for a humanitarian pause. Is it having any effect?
Oh, the calls for humanitarian pause is having absolutely no effect. Benjamin Netanyahu told Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, that there is no question of a humanitarian pause. We are going ahead full steam. They have intensified the bombings. As I, earlier in my reports I've been saying, they've encircled the Gaza city. In fact, they allowed a 3-hour period for the civilians to leave North Gaza, saying you can take the Gaza Highway to south, and then it is in your best interest and your interest of your loved ones that you move out soon, because we are going to launch the final offensive on, or the crackdown on Gaza. So they have tanks there, they have infantry men there, they have troops there. Aerial bombarding is regularly going on. There are the allegations and counter allegations of ambulances being hit, hospitals being hit, etc. So the military campaign is intensified when it comes to the Gaza Strip. The IDF is also hitting back targets inside Lebanon, from where the Hezbollah is continuously firing missiles at the Israeli army and in Israel territory, and rockets as well. So they are retaliating on both fronts, the north and the south. So there is absolutely no let up, and the military campaign is intensifying by the day.
All right, thanks for joining in, Amritpal Singh. Now, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has kicked off a tour of Southeast Asia, starting with a visit to Malaysia. It's aimed at strengthening ties with countries in the region and to boost security cooperation with them. Patrick Falk reports.
Well, Prime Minister Kishida's tour will also include a visit to the Philippines, and it's already about strengthening bilateral relations with these countries. And in particular, he wants to strengthen maritime security cooperation with Malaysia and the Philippines, and to reassure the Southeast Asian nations that Japan is ready to maintain peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific, even as America's attention is very much focused on the Middle East right now. Reports have suggested that strengthening that security cooperation with Manila will be a much more straightforward affair than it will be to do so with Malaysia. It is welcomed by the Philippines in many ways, as it is embroiled in this intensifying dispute with Beijing over territories in the South China Sea. Malaysia, by contrast, according to reports, is somewhat skeptical about deepening any security alliance, and is skeptical also about Tokyo's official securities assistance program, which was passed in April and essentially offers like-minded countries the ability to purchase security and defense equipment from Japan. Notably, it was described by China's state-run Global Times as ominous. It also described Prime Minister Kishida's visit as trouble-provoking, but the visit does offer Malaysia an opportunity to strengthen relations with Tokyo, to act as a counterbalance to its relations with Beijing.
And in a first since 2016, Anthony Albanese becomes the first Australian leader to visit China. Albanese arrived in Shanghai on Saturday, and the Australian leader will attend China's imports fair in Shanghai on Sunday. He will later meet President Xi Jinping in Beijing. The meeting will focus mainly on rising tensions in the South China Sea, among others, including the case of Australian writer Yang Hengjun, jailed in Beijing for 4 years on espionage charges. And in Bangladesh, a 48-hour countrywide blockade of road, rail and waterways began this morning. The blockade is enforced by Bangladesh Nationalist Party and like-minded opposition parties. Simultaneously, banned Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami is also enforcing a blockade, demanding the current government's resignation and installation of a non-party neutral administration to oversee the 12th parliamentary election. Vehicles of the newspapers or media, ambulances and vehicles transporting oxygen cylinders and medicines will remain out of purview of the 3-day blockade. Meanwhile, a dawn to dusk hartal will be enforced by BNP on Sunday in protest against the arrest of the party's standing committee member, Amir Khosrow Mahmood Chaudhry. And India's High Commissioner to Canada, Sanjay Kumar Verma, reiterated New Delhi's stand on the diplomatic standoff with Canada and urged Ottawa to release evidence backing up its allegation regarding the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Verma stressed that India has not been shown concrete evidence by Canada or its allies about India's alleged involvement in Nijjar's killing. The Indian envoy made the remarks in an interview with the Canadian Daily. Malaysian Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir is visiting India from today. The visiting dignitary will co-chair the 6th India-Malaysia Joint Commission meeting with Indian counterpart Dr. S. Jaishankar during his 2-day visit. The Joint Commission meeting will review the progress of enhanced strategic partnership with Malaysia in several areas. He will also call on the Indian Vice President. The visit will provide an opportunity to comprehensively review bilateral relations and to explore ways to further deepen and strengthen them. Well, the air quality in Delhi continues to be in severe category for the fourth consecutive day now. The air quality index stands at 478. A thick layer of toxic smog engulfs the city, resulting in poor visibility. According to doctors, for a healthy person, the recommended AQI should be less than 50. But in Delhi, AQI is very near to 500, which comes under the hazardous category. As pollution levels continue to remain high, primary schools in Delhi will stay closed till 10th of November. For grades 6 to 12, schools are being given the option of shifting to online classes. Well, DD India correspondent Jessica Taneja joins us live from New Delhi. Jessica, the air quality in several parts of Delhi is in severe category now for the fourth consecutive day. What is the latest you're getting for us?
Continues to rise with more than 450 PM2.5 levels recorded early this morning. And we're in the national capital, at the heart of the national capital, and you can see behind me, there's this toxic haze that covers it. If I could ask video journalist Ashish to point it out for us, he could show you that this is central Delhi, and this is what it looks like at 10:40 in the morning. So the situation looks pretty grim right now. The streets are empty, but at the same time, we're looking at more meetings happening between the Delhi government and the LG to find out more solutions, but nothing concrete to pull us out of this crisis, Siddharth.
Okay, Jessica, and are there any steps being taken to control this harmful air in the national capital?
Well, as the air quality now becomes the category of severe, so we're expecting some measures to kick in. The construction activities have stopped for the moment. The vehicles now entering would also be checked, especially the ones whose the pollution check certificate expires will be fined heavily as they were earlier. All of these measures were in place, but we're expecting more stricter ones to come into force. Right now, as we know, schools are shut, people are indoors, but we saw a few visitors here to see the national capital despite this toxic haze.
Yeah.
But as we know, there are less people on the streets today, and it doesn't look so good, Siddharth.
All right, Jessica, thanks for your analysis. Well, let's take a look at other stories making news. Bhutan King Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk took the jeep safari at the central range of the Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve in Assam. He also witnessed the flora and fauna of the park at the Kohora range on the second day of his visit to the state. Bhutan King is on an 8 days official visit to India. Indian Army and the Malaysian Army successfully concluded their joint guerrilla warfare military exercise Harimau Shakti 2023. The exercise was conducted at Foreign Training Nod, Umroi Cantonment, Meghalaya. Indian Army troops engaged with Malaysian Army's significant show of strength and joint manship and very effectively carried out various operations. In Baikula Zoo in Mumbai, people celebrate first birthday of tiger cubs Jay and Rudra. The cubs were born 1 year ago to Tiger Shakti and Karishma. The playful birthday cubs were center of the attraction for visitors on the special day. People enjoyed filming the twins and also clicked pictures at the selfie point. Ahead of Diwali festival in India, potters are preparing eco-friendly earthen lamps. In Muradabad of Uttar Pradesh, potters and artists are making idols of God and earthen lamps with cow dung. They claim it is more efficient than other raw materials. After the use of these earthen lamps can be converted into manure and can be used in farming. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Striking Hollywood Actors Union receives offer. Defending champions, England knocked out of Cricket World Cup 2023. And Manchester City claim the top spot in the Premier League once again. Stay tuned to know how.
Welcome to Lakshadweep, the land of 100,000 islands, the aquatic wonderland of India, an archipelago of spectacular marine gems, colorful coral and crystal clear lagoons, a kaleidoscope of turquoise blue. Each island of Lakshadweep draws in explorers with its unique beauty. Witness idyllic sunsets and pristine beaches of Kavarati, the majestic lighthouse and colorful boat races at Minikoi. Experience water sports in the shallow lagoons of Kadmat. Unwind in the serene setting of Bangaram. Lakshadweep offers a precious heritage of ecology and culture, with rhythmic beats of folk dances echoing through these islands, delighting visitors in traditional folk dances and local artworks. With abundant marine life and mineral resources, the islands are advancing towards a greener, brighter future. Lakshadweep is set to amaze visitors with its breathtaking wonders and picturesque seascapes, in the enduring spirit of incredible India.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. The United Auto Workers Union said its tentative contract deal with General Motors. It included plans for investments around electric vehicles. It will raise wages for thousands of US hourly workers at units with lower wage tiers than the vehicle assembly operations. The UAW released more details of its tentative 4.5-year deal with GM on Saturday. Now that preliminary approvals for all three contracts are done, UAW leaders will spend the next 2 weeks working to win yes votes from rank and file union members at the Detroit 3. The tentative deal was first announced on October 30th. Striking Hollywood Actors Union has received an offer from the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers on Saturday. The union said it is reviewing the offer and considering a response. The AMPTP, which represents Netflix, Walt Disney and other media companies, had said that this was the last, best and final offer. Members of the SAG-AFTRA union, which represents actors and media professionals, have been on strike since July, which has cost California economy of at least $6 billion. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for sport. And India will take on South Africa in the ICC World Cup 2023 at the Eden Gardens on Sunday. The men in blue have already qualified for the semi-final and will look to continue their momentum, whereas the Proteas will look to challenge the tabletoppers. DD India correspondent Narayan Singh reports.
Get ready for the El Clasico of cricket as Sunday marks the clash of the titans in the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023. It's a face-off of epic proportions, with India and South Africa squaring off at the iconic Eden Gardens in Kolkata. India, the undisputed juggernauts of the tournament, have been on a relentless winning spree. They have conquered all 7 of their matches, becoming the first team to secure a spot in the semi-finals.
This match is a perfect example of El Clasico of cricket. If you take a look at the points table, it's similar to that of the Real Madrid and Barcelona featuring in Spanish La Liga. If you take a look, India is playing more or less like Barcelona. The way Barcelona dominated with their technical tiki-taka, the European football, in the same way, India is playing an exceptional technical cricket and dominating and thrashing their all opponents. If you take a look at South Africa, they are more or less like Real Madrid, thrashing their all opponents who are coming on their way.
South Africa is on a mission to not only topple the cricketing giants, but also cement their own passage to the semi-finals. With an impressive 6 wins out of the 7 matches, they're hot on India's heels. Sure, they stumbled against the Netherlands in a shocking upset, but they have come back stronger, hungrier and more determined than ever. In the history books, India and South Africa have crossed paths in 90 ODIs, with the Proteas emerging victorious in 50 encounters and India securing 37 wins. In the crucible of the ODI World Cup, they have clashed 5 times, with South Africa holding the edge with 3 wins to India's 2.
If you take a look, both the teams on paper, both are strong. If India has Kohli and Rohit, then in batting department, South Africa has Klaasen and Quinton de Kock. But yet, there is no room for complacency, both the teams, because this match is not only played for the top of the table battle, but it is also for the battle of supremacy in the world of cricket. With camera person Senthil Kumar, Narayan Singh, DD India, Kolkata.
And DD India correspondent Narayan Singh joins us from Kolkata. Narayan, first of all, tell us what is the atmosphere there? How's the atmosphere there at the Iconic?
You can see a sea of fans are here to witness this fantastic game, and the fans are here in a large numbers coming to witness this historic match between the two giants of the cricketing world, India and South Africa. Here we can see the fans are just want to witness this great cricketing match. And first of all, I would like to say that the way both the teams have performed here in this tournament is fantastic. India unbeaten in the 7 matches, eyeing 8 out of 8, while South Africa lost only 1 match, that is against Netherlands. And so it's a battle of skills between the two big cricketing giants here. If you take a look, India, the way they played, the way their batsmen are firing in unison, Shami, Bumrah and Siraj, it's fantastic. So today they will test the South African batting lineup, who are scoring more than 300 runs in almost every match. In the 7 matches they have played, in 5 matches they have scored 5 matches they have scored more than 300 plus matches. So Indian bowlers will test them today. But one thing is that India is playing with 5 bowler strategy, and they are lacking a 6th bowler. So yesterday the captain of the South African team, Temba Bavuma, said that they will try to exploit that thing. But we are hoping the kind of form the Indian bowlers has gained, definitely they will just going to thrash their opponents today.
Definitely, it seems like an electric environment outside the stadium. Narayan, could you, if possible, talk to some of the fans who have come there to enjoy this much anticipated clash?
Actually, the fans are, a large number of fans are here, but you can see that because of some restrictions, they are not allowed here. Here you can see the large number of fans. Our cameraman will just pan it and show how many fans, a large number of fans are here.
Indeed.
To witness this great match. So one fan we have us. So what do you think? Who is going to win this great match?
India is a totally balanced team this year. Batting side and bowling side both. So I hope India will win this World Cup this year again. So विराट कोहली जो है उसका बर्थडे है, तो मैं ये चाहता हूँ विराट कोहली आज सेंचुरी बनाए.
So fans are hoping here that today is Virat Kohli's birthday, and they are hoping that here Virat Kohli will score the 49th century and equal the record of Sachin Tendulkar in terms of the number of centuries in ODIs, and hoping that he will gift this century to the countryman. But the most important thing here is that already both the teams had qualified for the semi-finals, and the important thing is both the teams, the way Indians are just won their many matches through while chasing, and South Africa won their maximum number of matches first batting. So it will be a great interesting thing if today the fans, South Africa is bowling first, batting first and scoring around 300, and then it's the test of the Indian bowlers, and we are hoping that it will give great, we can say, practice ahead of the match.
Well, definitely, and thank you so much, Narayan, for joining in. And ahead of the high-voltage World Cup match between India and South Africa, DD India correspondent Narayan Singh brings stats and trivia associated with Eden Gardens. Let's have a look.
Eden Gardens in Kolkata is the venue for the World Cup match between India and South Africa. It is a historic cricket stadium with a rich sporting legacy. It can accommodate over 66,000 spectators. Known as cricket's answer to the Colosseum, it has hosted significant matches in its history, including the first World Cup final outside Lord's. You can see the beauty of this cricketing marvelous theatre, and it can accommodate a large number of people. The notable moments include Anil Kumble's remarkable 6 for 12 against West Indies in 1993 Hero Cup final, and Sachin's famous run-out incident during Asian Test Championship final match against Pakistan. There have been great achievements like the 376-run partnership between VVS Lakshman and Rahul Dravid in 2001 Test Series against Australia. And another remarkable moment of this iconic ground is Rohit Sharma's record-breaking 264 in an ODI against Sri Lanka in 2014. So it has many historic milestones against its names, and the Eden Gardens status as the venue with the most test matches, having hosted 39 test matches. If you take a look at the ODIs, it has hosted a total of 37 ODI matches, and 21 matches were won by the team who batted first. If you talk about the team who won ball first, then 15 matches were won by team who bowled first. And if you take a look at the average first inning score, it's 240, and average second inning score is 201. So these were the crucial stats and records associated with this ground.
England crashed out of the Cricket World Cup after succumbing to a 6th loss as Australia beat them by 33 runs. At the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on Saturday, batting first, Australia scored 286 runs, to which England could only manage 253 in response, losing their 6th game in the tournament. David Malan and Ben Stokes struck half-centuries, while Moeen Ali contributed with 42 but couldn't save England from their 5th consecutive loss. Adam Zampa returned with superb bowling figures of 3 for 21, while Mitchell Starc and captain Pat Cummins too struck at crucial moments of the match for the 5-time champions. Earlier, Manas Labuschagne scored 71, while valuable contributions from Cameron Green, Stephen Smith and Marcus Stoinis helped Australia reach 286 after England won the toss and have opted to bowl first. With this win, Australia are almost certain for a semi-final spot. Some football news now, where Manchester City bounced back to the top of the Premier League with a 6-1 thrashing of Bournemouth. Jeremy Doku, the standout star, contributing a goal and 2 assists in a breathtaking first-half display. However, the win was marred by an injury to striker Erling Haaland, who did not return for the second half. Bruno Fernandes scored a late goal to secure Manchester United a much-needed 1-0 win against Fulham at Craven Cottage. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Prasar Bharati from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.